The unseen threat, humanity's silent preparation. In a distant corner of the galaxy, where the stars shined bright and the planets swirled in their orbits, a new power was rising. The vast empire of the Zoreth had ruled for centuries. They had conquered many worlds, defeated countless enemies, and established themselves as the most dominant force in the galaxy. They had seen almost every kind of threat imaginable. From powerful warlords to dangerous creatures, the Zoreth were prepared for anything. Or so they thought. On the edge of their empire, on a small blue and green planet known as Earth, things were changing. Humanity had been overlooked by the galaxy's greatest powers for centuries. They were seen as weak, primitive, and unimportant. Their technology was far behind that of the other advanced species. No one thought much of Earth. After all, they didn't even have space travel, right? But the Zoreth were wrong. They didn't know what humanity had been hiding, and they certainly didn't understand the power that was quietly growing on that small, insignificant planet. The humans had been secretly preparing for something, a plan that would eventually shake the entire galaxy, and they had been doing it right under the noses of their alien neighbors, in the shadows of their space missions and research labs. It all started when humans began to explore the vastness of their solar system. They had sent probes to the Moon, Mars, and even to the far reaches of the outer planets. The humans had been quietly watching the stars, learning about the universe, and gathering data. They had no intention of staying on their planet forever. Earth was just the beginning. Unknown to the Zoreth, Earth's governments had been working together for decades. They had formed secret alliances, pooling their resources to create a force powerful enough to defend their world against any threat. Their scientists were brilliant, pushing the limits of technology every single day. They had developed new materials, powerful engines, and energy shields that could protect entire cities. And in the deepest, most secure areas of their planet, humanity was building something far more dangerous. The humans were designing a new kind of warship. This ship wasn't just a simple vessel for exploration. It was a weapon, a massive, indestructible fortress in space. The ship's hull was made from a new type of alloy, stronger than anything the Zoreth Empire had ever encountered. The energy shields around it could absorb and redirect the most advanced attacks, turning the tide of any battle in an instant. And the ship's weapons were beyond anything imaginable, designed to deliver destruction to any enemy that dared to stand in its way. For years, the humans had kept their progress a secret. They knew that if the other galactic empires found out, they would attempt to steal their technology or destroy it altogether. But the humans were patient. They didn't need to show their hand just yet. They were biding their time, preparing for the moment when they would finally reveal their strength to the galaxy. The Zoreth Empire had no idea of the storm that was brewing on Earth. They continued their plans, confident that nothing could ever threaten their rule. But as they looked out across the stars, they were unaware that humanity was quietly watching them, learning their every move, and preparing for the moment when they would strike. As the years passed, Earth's warship began to take shape. It wasn't an ordinary ship. It was a masterpiece of engineering and science, designed to be both a weapon and a symbol of humanity's strength. It was the culmination of everything humans had learned over centuries, a weapon that would put the galaxy's greatest empires on notice. But while humanity worked in secret, they were not alone in the universe. The galaxy was filled with empires and species, many of whom had already met their end at the hands of the Zoreth. These species knew the power of the Zoreth Empire all too well, and they had been watching Earth from the shadows. They were desperate for a new hope, a new champion to rise up and challenge the empire that had crushed them all. And they saw that hope in humanity. But for the Zoreth, the thought of humanity rising against them was nothing more than a distant fantasy. They had no reason to believe that Earth could pose any real threat. Their arrogance blinded them to the growing power on the small blue planet. They were so sure of their dominance that they didn't consider the possibility of humanity having anything capable of challenging them. Yet, as the humans continued to prepare, A small group of rebels and spies from the other alien civilizations began to reach out to Earth. They secretly offered information, technology, and guidance to help humanity in their quest to create the ultimate weapon. The aliens had suffered long under the Zorath's rule, and they saw the humans as their last hope. But they were careful. They knew that if the Zorath discovered their involvement, they would be destroyed. So, they worked in the shadows, sharing their knowledge and hoping that one day humanity would be ready to stand up against the Empire. The humans had no idea that they were receiving help from the very beings they had been studying. They knew that they were not alone in the universe, but they didn't realize how much others were depending on them. The fate of many worlds was resting on the shoulders of Earth's scientists and engineers, but the humans were focused only on their own survival. They had no idea that the Zorath were about to discover their hidden weapon and that the galaxy was about to be plunged into a new war. As the final stages of the battleship's construction neared completion, the first signs of danger began to appear. The Zorath Empire, suspicious of Earth's activities, sent a fleet of ships to observe the planet. They were determined to uncover the truth behind the strange reports and to see if humanity had indeed developed something dangerous. The Zorath commanders sent their fleet on a mission, confident that they would be able to intimidate Earth into submission. But they were wrong. Humanity's battleship was ready, and Earth was no longer a planet to be underestimated. The time had come for the galaxy to meet the humans' true power. The Zorath fleet moved through space at an intimidating speed, their sleek, heavily armed warships cutting through the void like predators on the hunt. Their mission was clear: to observe Earth, determine whether there was any threat, and, if necessary, neutralize it. The Zorath had never once considered the possibility that Earth might be hiding a force capable of challenging them. After all, Earth was just another backwater planet in the eyes of the galaxy's most powerful empire. As the Zorath ships approached Earth's orbit, they saw nothing out of the ordinary. The planet appeared peaceful, surrounded by the usual mix of satellites and space debris. There was no sign of the massive warship the humans had been constructing in secret for so long. The Zorath commanders were confident, too confident. They ordered their fleet to prepare for what they thought would be a simple observation mission, unaware that they were walking straight into a trap. Then, without warning, a deep rumble shook the silence of space. It wasn't a natural occurrence. It wasn't a cosmic anomaly. It was the sound of something powerful and ancient waking up. Emerging from the shadows of Earth's moon, a massive ship appeared, one that the Zorath could never have imagined. At first, they didn't even know what they were looking at. The ship was enormous, its shape unlike anything they had seen before. Its hull gleamed with a dark metallic sheen, reflecting the distant light of the stars as though it were an impenetrable fortress. The ship's energy field shimmered with an eerie blue glow, a force field so powerful it could block any incoming fire from even the most advanced alien weapons. The Zorath fleet, who had expected to meet a small, unarmed military presence, suddenly found themselves face to face with a weapon of unimaginable power. This was no mere battleship. It was the embodiment of humanity's resolve and strength. The Zorath commanders hesitated. This was not part of the plan. Their ships were equipped with advanced weaponry, but nothing they had was capable of penetrating the energy shields of the human battleship. Their fleet began to stall, unsure of what to do next. Was this a mere bluff, or had Earth truly unlocked the power to rival even the mightiest civilizations in the galaxy? Then, the first shot rang out. Without any warning, the massive battleship fired its primary weapon, sending a brilliant beam of concentrated energy directly toward the Zorath fleet. The blast cut through space like a hot knife through butter, and before the Zorath ships could react, one of their most advanced warships exploded in a flash of light. The sheer force of the blast sent shockwaves through the surrounding fleet, knocking several other ships off course. The Zorath commanders were left in stunned silence. How could this be? They had no idea that humanity had the technology to create such a weapon. Their best ships couldn't stand against it. This was no ordinary ship, and this was no ordinary enemy. Panic spread quickly through the Zoreth fleet. The attack had been so precise, so devastating, that they didn't know how to respond. The humans had not only managed to construct a warship capable of such destruction, but they had done so with stealth and secrecy. The Zoreth were on the verge of underestimating the humans. Now, they realized their grave mistake. On Earth's side, the human commanders on the battleship watched as the Zoreth ships began to scatter. They knew this was just the beginning. The human fleet wasn't yet at full strength. This single battleship was their first step. They had more hidden away, ready to join the fight if necessary. But for now, they had sent a message loud and clear. Humanity was not to be underestimated. The Zoreth fleet, though shaken, had not yet retreated. They regrouped quickly, unwilling to lose face or let the humans think they had won. The battle was far from over, and the Zoreth commanders were readying their counterattack. But the humans had one advantage they didn't. Surprise. The Zoreth were now playing catch-up, trying to understand the full extent of humanity's power, and it was only a matter of time before they realized that this was no isolated incident. Humanity had prepared for this moment, and they would not back down. Their battleship was just the beginning of a new chapter in the galaxy's history, a chapter where Earth would no longer be seen as weak and insignificant. As the Zoreth began their counterattack, humanity's warship stood firm, its energy shields holding strong, prepared to strike again if necessary. The battle had only just begun, but the galaxy was about to learn a valuable lesson. Underestimating Earth was a mistake they would never forget. The first shot from the human battleship had sent shockwaves through the Zoreth fleet, but it wasn't enough to break their resolve. They regrouped quickly, their commanders barking orders, trying to contain the fear and chaos spreading among their ranks. They had underestimated humanity, yes, but they would not allow their pride to be shattered so easily. The Zoreth warships fired back, unleashing a storm of energy blasts toward the human battleship, their weapons designed to crack even the strongest of shields. But Earth's warship didn't even flinch. The human vessel's shields shimmered as the Zoreth weapons collided with them, but not a single blast managed to pierce through. The Zoreth fleet's greatest weaponry, meant to destroy the mightiest foes, was nothing against humanity's technological advancements. The Zoreth commanders watched in horror as their most advanced missiles and plasma weapons harmlessly ricocheted off the human ship shields, leaving no damage at all. The human ship was untouchable. Meanwhile, the human crew on the battleship stood firm. Their eyes were glued to the screens, watching as the Zoreth ships desperately tried to land hits on them. Every counterattack from the aliens was met with a calm, collected response from Earth's warriors. It wasn't just the technology at play. It was the unwavering resolve of the humans. They weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting to prove something far bigger. On board the battleship, the captain, a seasoned commander named Admiral Blake, calmly gave his orders. The Zoreth fleet was now within range for a secondary assault. Humanity had waited long for this day. They had prepared for it. Now it was time to strike back. The massive warship pivoted in space, positioning itself for a counterstrike. With precise coordination, the human battleship's guns powered up, and the hum of the engines vibrated through the ship. For the first time, in what seemed like an eternity, the human ship moved to attack. It wasn't just a fight for the planet, it was a statement to the entire galaxy. The humans fired their secondary weapons, massive cannons mounted along the battleship's sides. Beams of bright, concentrated energy shot out from the guns, each beam aimed with deadly precision. The beams cut through the Zoreth ships like a hot knife through butter, their advanced shields no match for the power behind the human weapons. One Zoreth warship exploded in a violent burst, its fragments scattering across the vastness of space. The shockwave from the explosion sent ripples through the Zoreth fleet, and they immediately started to fall back. For a moment, it felt like they were facing an overwhelming force. Admiral Blake watched as the Zoreth fleet faltered. Their retreat wasn't just tactical, It was out of fear. They hadn't anticipated such strength, and now they were scrambling to escape, realizing that they were outclassed. The humans were no longer a species to be ignored. They had the power, the strategy, and the will to fight. But the battle was far from over. The Zorath commanders, though shaken, refused to retreat. The pride of their people demanded that they continue. The surviving warships began to regroup, and they prepared for another, even more desperate attack. They had underestimated Earth once. They would not make that mistake again. However, the Zorath were not prepared for the next twist. While they were focused on the human battleship, Earth's fleet, still hidden behind the moon, was ready to strike. These ships, though smaller and less powerful individually, were far more agile and had their own advanced weaponry. The moment the Zorath fleet focused on the primary battleship, the hidden fleet launched, moving in from all sides to encircle the alien ships. The Zorath commanders were taken aback as more human ships appeared, emerging from the shadows of the moon like ghosts. They had no idea that Earth had not only built one powerful battleship, but an entire fleet of them, waiting in the wings, ready to strike at the most opportune moment. Now, the Zorath were caught in a pincer, with no clear way out. The Zorath fleet's morale began to crumble. Desperation set in as they tried to break through the human encirclement. The battle that had started as a test of power was now a fight for survival. The Zorath fleet, known for its strength and supremacy, was now the one fighting to survive against a determined enemy they had never seen coming. As the second wave of human warships opened fire, the Zorath knew their time was running out. They were losing ships at an alarming rate, and their attempts to regroup were futile. They had miscalculated their enemy, underestimated the willpower of humanity, and now they were paying the price. On board the human battleship, Admiral Blake felt the adrenaline surge through his veins. This was it, the turning point. The Zorath had been forced into a retreat, but the war wasn't over. They had sent a clear message, one that would echo across the galaxy. Humanity would no longer be pushed around. The Zorath were about to learn the hardest lesson of all. Underestimating Earth's power had been a fatal mistake. The battle raged on, and the tides had clearly turned in humanity's favor. The once confident Zorath fleet, known for their incredible strength and unrivaled technology, was now on the back foot. Their retreat had become chaotic, and their commanders, once full of arrogance, were now gripped by panic. The shock of facing humanity's full might had shattered their resolve. As the remaining Zorath warships tried to regroup, Admiral Blake's eyes were fixed on the holographic map before him, tracking the movements of the enemy fleet. He had anticipated this moment. He knew the Zorath would retreat, but he had also prepared for a full-scale offensive. The time to end this battle, once and for all, was now. "Deploy the secondary fleet," Blake ordered, his voice calm and authoritative. The human fleet, which had been carefully hiding in the shadows of the moon, now surged forward, emerging from their concealed positions with precision. Each ship in the fleet was smaller than the massive battleship, but they were agile and well-armed. Their weapons were designed for swift, decisive strikes. As they shot forward, it became clear to the Zorath fleet that they were completely surrounded. The Zorath commanders, now desperate, scrambled to react. They tried to adjust their formations and make a break for safety, but it was too late. The human fleet had them in a perfect trap. The Zorath ships attempted evasive maneuvers, but their advanced technology was no match for the sheer speed and determination of Earth's vessels. The human ships moved with terrifying synchronicity, launching waves of firepower that shredded through the Zorath fleet's defenses. The once formidable alien vessels exploded one by one, each blast sending shockwaves that echoed through the vacuum of space. The human warships weren't just hitting their targets, they were annihilating them with precise, devastating force. The Zorath commanders had miscalculated once again. They thought they could break through Earth's defenses, but they had never expected the full might of humanity's military to be this powerful. The battle, which had started with arrogance and disbelief, was now becoming a desperate struggle for survival. As the battle unfolded, the human forces pressed on with relentless determination. They were no longer fighting just to protect Earth. They were fighting for their place in the galaxy, to prove that they could not be ignored, that they would not be subjugated by alien powers. Humanity's resolve was now their greatest weapon, and it was becoming increasingly clear to the Zoreth that they had underestimated Earth in every way. On the human battleship, Admiral Blake watched as his fleet systematically dismantled the remaining Zoreth warships. Every shot, every maneuver, was a testament to humanity's grit, intelligence, and resourcefulness. It wasn't just the technology that made them formidable. It was the spirit that drove them, the refusal to bow to any power, no matter how great. The Zoreth fleet, once thought to be an unstoppable force, was now nothing more than a shattered remnant of its former self. As one final Zoreth ship tried to escape, a single beam from the human battleship shot through the vacuum of space, catching the alien vessel dead center. The ship disintegrated into a cloud of metal fragments, signaling the end of the Zoreth's dominance in the region. Admiral Blake stood silently for a moment, watching the wreckage of the once feared alien fleet drift into the void. The victory was hard-earned, but it was undeniable. Humanity had sent a clear message. They were no longer a species to be underestimated. But Blake knew this was only the beginning. While the Zoreth had been defeated, there were countless other threats in the galaxy. There would be more battles, more enemies to face, and humanity would need to be prepared. The war against the Zoreth was over, but the fight for humanity's place in the cosmos was just beginning. As the human fleet regrouped and prepared to return to Earth, Blake's mind was already moving forward. The galaxy had just seen a new power rise, a power that would forever change the balance of forces in the universe. The Zoreth had learned their lesson, but Blake knew humanity would have to prove itself again, time and time again. For now, though, Earth had won. And that victory would resonate throughout the galaxy, a warning to any who might think of challenging humanity's strength. But there was no time to relax. The galaxy was vast, and new challenges would soon arise. But one thing was certain: humanity would face them all, just as they had faced the Zoreth, head-on, with courage, and with the unyielding power of Earth's might. In the aftermath of the Zoreth fleet's destruction, the human fleet returned to Earth as victors, their ships battered but triumphant. Earth's space stations and military bases, previously buzzing with preparations for a war they had expected to lose, now stood as symbols of victory. The people of Earth had witnessed a miracle. A small, seemingly insignificant species had faced the most powerful force in the galaxy and emerged victorious. Admiral Blake stood on the observation deck of the main flagship, staring out at the blue planet below. He felt a sense of pride, but knew this victory was only the first step in a much longer journey. The galaxy was vast, and while they had defeated one threat, there were many more out there. The Zoreth might have been powerful, but they weren't the only ones with a thirst for conquest. The victory parade, held to celebrate their success, was filled with the cheers of Earth's citizens, but Blake could not shake the nagging feeling that something bigger was out there, something worse than the Zoreth. His instincts told him that the galaxy would not let such an event pass without consequences. Earth's victory would not go unnoticed. And the other galactic powers, perhaps even more dangerous than the Zoreth, would surely take note of what had happened. Meanwhile, Earth's leaders gathered for a high-level summit at the United Nations Space Council. The room was filled with representatives from Earth's largest nations, all discussing the future of humanity's role in the galaxy. The mood was celebratory, but underneath it all, there was an undeniable tension. Earth had just made its mark on the galactic stage, and now the question remained: how would the galaxy respond? "We've proven our strength," President Harris said, his voice calm but firm. "But this is only the beginning. We need to prepare ourselves for what's coming next. There are enemies out there who will see us as a threat, as a challenge to their own power." General Ramirez, the head of Earth's military, nodded in agreement. We can't afford to be complacent. The Zorith were just the first. We've already detected unusual activity on the edges of the galaxy, and it's likely we're not the only ones who've noticed what's happened. It's time to prepare for the next wave. Admiral Blake, who had been silent up until this point, stepped forward. We've made powerful enemies, and we don't know who they are or when they'll strike. But we can't back down. We need to be ready. Our next move needs to be calculated. We'll need a fleet that's even stronger than the one that took down the Zorith. A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. The next steps were clear, but the uncertainty of what lay ahead lingered in everyone's mind. What was the true nature of the threat they were about to face, and what price would humanity have to pay to ensure their survival in the galaxy? On Earth's military bases, the order went out to begin the construction of a new fleet, one that would dwarf the one that had defeated the Zorith. New warships, stronger and more advanced than anything Earth had ever built, would be crafted in the heart of the solar system. These new vessels would be equipped with cutting-edge technology, designed to meet whatever new threats might arise. But there was something else in the air. An unsettling feeling that not all threats would come in the form of warships or weapons. The Zorith had been an external force, a clear and present danger, but what if humanity's biggest challenge lay within the galaxy itself? What if their enemies had no interest in direct confrontation, but preferred subtlety, manipulation, and the exploitation of Earth's weaknesses? Admiral Blake's thoughts turned to the intelligence reports they had gathered in the wake of the battle. They showed strange patterns, disturbances near the galactic core, signals that seemed to flicker in and out of existence. It was as though someone, or something, was watching them, waiting. And if that was the case, humanity would need to be ready for more than just a military fight. They would need to protect themselves on all fronts: political, social, and technological. The galaxy was not just a battleground for warships and firepower. It was a chessboard, with each piece moving with calculated precision. And humanity, for the first time in history, was a player in that game. As Blake sat in his quarters that evening, reviewing the latest intelligence reports, he received an unexpected message. A transmission from a distant, uncharted sector. It was short, cryptic, and chilling. The galaxy does not forgive. Prepare for what comes next. The message sent a chill down his spine. He knew that it was only a matter of time before the next threat arrived. But humanity was ready to face it. The time of underestimation was over. Earth had proven its strength, and now the galaxy would learn that humanity would fight back, not just with firepower, but with intelligence, strategy, and resolve. As Blake gazed out at the stars, he knew that their victory over the Zorith had only just opened the door to a much greater challenge. And humanity, now more than ever, would have to stand together, not just as a nation, but as a force capable of shaping the future of the galaxy. The silence of space held an ominous promise. The galaxy would never look at Earth the same way again. But would humanity be able to rise to the occasion when the true tests came? Only time would tell. As Earth continued to rebuild from the aftermath of the Zorith battle, there was a palpable tension in the air. The people were still celebrating their victory, but the leaders knew something far more dangerous was on the horizon. The galaxy had been watching, and now, Earth's newfound power was both a blessing and a curse. It had been a simple victory for humanity, but it had sent shockwaves across the cosmos. For centuries, Earth had been a relatively insignificant player in the grand scheme of galactic politics. But now, it had become a force to be reckoned with, a force that had humbled one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. While most of the galaxy had assumed humanity was weak, they now knew the truth. Earth had hidden potential, and that potential was ready to be unleashed. Admiral Blake sat in the war room at Earth Command, surrounded by high-ranking officials, military officers, and intelligence agents. The room was tense, with everyone fully aware that they were in uncharted territory. Earth's military had never been so powerful, but with this newfound power came the uncertainty of how other galactic factions would react. We've received reports of several factions mobilizing near the edges of the galaxy, General Ramirez said, his voice grim. "The Zorath's defeat is not sitting well with the other powers. We've detected an increase in military activity, pirates, mercenaries, and even some of the larger galactic factions. They're all taking a hard look at Earth right now, and none of them seem to be friendly." Blake rubbed his temples, considering the gravity of the situation. "We knew this would happen. Earth's victory has turned us into a target. They'll either come for us, try to undermine us, or look to form alliances to maintain the balance of power. We need to be prepared for all scenarios." The room fell into a somber silence. For the first time, the true weight of humanity's place in the galaxy was becoming clear. With one battle, Earth had made enemies of some of the galaxy's most powerful empires. But they had also made allies, or at least potential allies, who saw Earth as a force they could use or negotiate with. The question was, who could be trusted? On Earth's surface, political leaders were engaging in heated debates about how to respond. Some called for a more aggressive stance, launching preemptive strikes to ensure Earth's dominance in the galaxy. Others urged caution, believing that humanity's best option was to stay low, build up their strength, and form diplomatic ties with the more reasonable factions. But one thing was certain: humanity's fate was no longer in their hands alone. They were part of something much larger, a web of alliances and rivalries that stretched across the stars. While these debates raged on Earth, the reality of the situation grew clearer by the day. Earth's space fleet was expanding at an unprecedented rate. New warships, some designed to be far more advanced than the ones used to defeat the Zorath, were already under construction. Each one was a symbol of humanity's determination to defend its place in the galaxy. And yet, with each new ship, Blake's doubts grew stronger. The galaxy was not going to be easily subdued. They had made enemies, and those enemies were gathering, waiting for the right moment to strike. In the shadows of the galaxy, several factions were already plotting their next moves. The Galdari, an ancient and ruthless race known for their cunning and manipulation, had been watching Earth's rise from the moment the Zorath were defeated. They had their own plans for the future, and those plans didn't include a powerful, independent Earth. The Velkir Empire, a vast and technologically superior race, had also taken notice of Earth's newfound strength. Their ships were some of the most formidable in the galaxy, and they had a history of expanding their borders by force. Many of the galaxy's lesser powers had fallen to the Velkir, and they were not used to seeing an outsider stand up to their rule. In private council chambers, the Velkir leaders were discussing the threat humanity posed, but they were also intrigued. Could Earth be a useful ally, or would they need to be eradicated to maintain control? At the same time, scattered factions of mercenaries, pirates, and outlaw groups were beginning to rally in the outer rim of the galaxy. They saw Earth as an opportunity to seize power, wealth, and influence. A sudden power shift on a galactic scale had created an opening, and they weren't going to miss the chance to take advantage of the chaos. But with no unified structure, these groups were unpredictable, capable of anything from petty raids to full-scale war. As all of this unfolded, Blake knew that humanity's greatest challenge had just begun. The victory over the Zorath had shown the galaxy what Earth was capable of, but now the real test would begin. Could humanity maintain its position in the galaxy? Would they be able to navigate the complex and dangerous web of galactic politics, where even allies could turn on each other in the blink of an eye? Blake knew one thing for certain: Earth would need to stay united. The challenges ahead would require cooperation, careful diplomacy, and a level of military preparedness that humanity had never seen before. If they were to survive in this new galaxy, they would need to stand strong and face whatever came their way, whether it be enemies, allies, or the shifting tides of power. The message was clear: Earth's rise had shaken the galaxy, but the true test was yet to come. The war room at Earth Command was quieter than it had ever been before. Admiral Blake and his senior officers sat around the large holographic table, their eyes locked on the projections of the galaxy's map. Over the past several months, Earth had become a central figure in the galactic landscape. Yet it wasn't just because of their victory over the Zorath. The galaxy had been watching, calculating how much further humanity could go. And it wasn't just the powerful enemies who had noticed. It was the entire universe. Earth had made enemies, yes, but it had also gained something far more valuable: respect. The unexpected defeat of the Zorath had turned humanity from an insignificant species into a force that could no longer be ignored. But with that respect came fear. And with that fear came danger. Blake stood up from his chair and walked slowly toward the holographic projection. "We've built our fleet, but this war isn't just about firepower. It's about influence. Every power in the galaxy is watching us now. We need to be prepared for what comes next." Behind him, the officers nodded. They knew the stakes were high. What humanity had accomplished was nothing short of extraordinary, but it was just the beginning of a much larger struggle. The galaxy had never seen a species like Earth. The Valkyr Empire, the Galdari, and every other major power were still grappling with the idea that humanity could challenge them. The Zorath might have been defeated, but their defeat had sparked something far more dangerous. A galaxy on edge, with alliances shifting and enemies preparing for the inevitable conflict. Admiral Blake turned to General Ramirez, the head of Earth's military operations. "The warships are ready, but we can't afford to act impulsively. We need to send a message, a strong one. Earth doesn't want to dominate the galaxy, but we will protect ourselves. We will defend our people. We will do whatever it takes." General Ramirez, who had seen the horrors of war firsthand, stood up and spoke, his voice resolute. "We've already sent that message, Admiral. We've proven that we're not to be underestimated. But it's not enough. The galaxy won't just leave us alone because we've won one battle. We've earned their attention, but we need to show them that Earth is not afraid of what's coming." Blake nodded. The warships in orbit were a testament to humanity's determination, but the real challenge was the political game they had to play. The galaxy was full of shifting alliances, and the trust between powers could dissolve at any moment. Earth had to navigate this treacherous environment, using both diplomacy and strength to survive. Meanwhile, on the edges of the galaxy, the first signs of a galactic storm were beginning to form. The Valkyr Empire had long held dominion over the outer reaches, and they weren't about to let a species like humanity rise without consequences. But they weren't acting alone. The Galdari, the most calculating and secretive of the galactic races, had also begun making moves. Behind the scenes, they were gathering information, observing Earth's every move. The Zorath might have been humiliated, but the true threat lay in the alliances these factions were about to forge. At the same time, the pirates and mercenaries that once scoured the galaxy for easy targets were beginning to band together. The unification of these rogue groups was unprecedented, and their intentions were clear. They sought to exploit the chaos created by Earth's rise to power. They weren't just interested in riches. They wanted control. They saw Earth's warships as a key to tipping the balance of power in their favor. It was a dangerous game they were playing, but one that would push the galaxy to its breaking point. On Earth, the civilian government had been holding closed-door meetings to discuss their next steps. They were divided. Some factions wanted to go on the offensive, striking before their enemies could react. Others advocated for a more diplomatic approach, fearing that war would only lead to further bloodshed. Yet, as tensions mounted, it became clear that diplomacy alone wouldn't keep the galaxy at bay. Earth's military would need to play a pivotal role in determining the future. Blake and his officers knew that Earth's power was not yet fully realized. They had the fleets, the weapons, and the tactical expertise, but the galaxy wasn't just going to roll over. Earth had made its enemies, and now it had to prepare for the consequences. The day would come when the galaxy would test humanity's resolve. The question that remained was, would humanity be ready when that moment arrived? Blake walked back to the table, staring at the projection of Earth's territory in the galaxy. The warships floating above the planet weren't just symbols of power, they were symbols of survival. Humanity had defied the odds once, But the galaxy was a far bigger challenge. Allies, enemies, mercenaries, and rogue groups. They were all out there, watching, waiting for Earth's next move. "Prepare the fleets for immediate deployment," Blake said, his voice cold and calculated. "We won't be caught off guard again. The galaxy's been watching us, and now they'll see the truth. Earth will not back down." The officers saluted, understanding the gravity of the situation. Earth had become more than a symbol of resistance. It had become a force of its own, one that would not be ignored. Whether they liked it or not, humanity had carved its place in the galaxy. And now it was time to stake their claim. With the warships on standby and Earth's military preparing for whatever would come next, Blake knew one thing. The galaxy would never see humanity the same way again. Earth's rise wasn't just about a single battle. It was about changing the future of the entire galaxy. The warships would lead the way, and humanity would be ready for the challenges that lay ahead.